So what are the basic elements of the automated system? So as we can see here, there are three main elements. One is the process which we want to automate here. In order to automate, we require three additional things. One is the power, which is normally required for the process. Then you are having the program of instructions. Then you are having the control system, and the arrow marks represent the flow. It can be flow of information or flow of the signals, or it can be, in case of the power, it can be the flow of power. So we will be seeing in detail what are these three elements that are required to automate a process and what are the various aspects associated with them. So the first element is power to accomplish the automated process. So if you take any process, maybe a heat treatment, maybe a machining activity, it requires some kind of power. If you take a heat treatment process, you require heat, now which can be generated by using several means. You can burn some fuel and get the heat, or you can use a solar concentrator and get the heat, or you can use some electrical power and you can use some heating coils and you can get the temperature. But whenever we say power, in case of the automated system, we want to control it in the required way so that at the end of it the output can be easily controlled. Among the various power sources available, the one which is more widely used in the automated systems is the electrical power. Because of its ease of availability, it can be available at low cost in the required quantity. Ease of transmission, you can transfer it from one point to another point. And ease of control, you can increase the voltage, you can decrease the voltage, you can change the waveform, you can make it in the pulse, you can supply it in the form of pulses, you can use high power, you can use it in low power conditions. So there are different ways of using the electrical power. Even we can store electrical power in batteries and you can use it wherever you cannot supply electrical power. So because of its inherent advantages, electrical power is more widely used. And apart from all these advantages, electrical power can be converted from one form into another form very easily. You can convert it into mechanical energy, mechanical power. You can get some movements. You can convert into thermal power. You can raise the temperature or you can lower the temperature. You can use it to drive hydraulic systems or pneumatic systems, or you can generate some acoustic energy through it. So different conversion mechanisms are possible. So seeing all these things, electrical energy is more widely used as a source of power. It is also possible to use more than one source. So if we take the example of the heat treatment furnace, so heat source can be from the fuel, but the fuel as it is burning may not be sufficient, so you will be using again electrical power to supply the fuel and to control the output. So usually more than one source is used, but electrical source alone is more than sufficient. You can convert it into the required form. So there are two ways in which the power is used. One is for power for the process itself. If you are taking the example of the heat treatment, you can use electrical coils to increase the temperature. That will be the power for process. If you are considering the CNC machine, the power required for movement of the spindle or movement of the table, all these things are the power for the process. So for the actual process, you have to supply the power. This will be of higher level. You require significant amount of power, electrical power to drive the process. Next one is power for automation, which means you are having various elements. Maybe a computer will be there, digital computer, or you may be having some kind of circuitry which are actually controlling the position of the motor or position of the carriage. So in order to control these various elements, you have to generate appropriate signals. So the signals also require power, and usually the signals and other things require power at a lower energy level. So if you are speaking about the DC, the signals will run at 6 volt or 12 volt, whereas the spindle motor may run at 24 volt, and the current rating also will be accordingly different. So the sensor elements and other things required may be running at a significantly lower voltage. Their power consumption also will be very less. But without power, it will not be able to function. Maybe some of the elements require battery power supply, so that also is possible. So there are different ways you can convert the available electrical power source to meet the various requirements of the automation. So the power source you have to give it to the process, power source you have to give it to the control system. The power source is also required for the program of instructions. So program of instructions are nothing but the steps that have to be carried out by the automated system. If you want to execute those programs, you have to give the appropriate signals. So even there you have to supply the power. So power is required for all the steps that have to take place in the automated system. Now it may not only be the manufacturing system, it can be any system which you want to automate. You should have a process which you want to automate. You will be having a output. You will be having the program of instructions through which you are giving the inputs. The control system will ensure that the program of instructions are utilized to ensure that the process is happening as per the requirement, and power is required to drive all the activities that have to happen. This is the first element of the automated system. The next element is the program of instructions. So program of instruction will have the detailed step-by-step procedure or detailed step-by-step activities that have to happen in the automated system. If you take the example of the machining, it will be having the various details about the movement of the tool. If it is a heat treatment, the instructions will be how much to increase the temperature. If you want to do the normalizing process, the temperature required is 720 degrees centigrade, and you have to hold it for some amount of time, and then you have to cool it, whether the cooling is air cooling or it may be water quenching or it may be some other activity or some other type of cooling process. So the various movements have to happen accordingly. If it is air cooling, maybe the furnace door has to open. If it is furnace cooling, the door has to remain closed. If it is quenching, the components have to be lifted and it has to be immersed in the water or maybe oil or some other fluid depending on the requirement. So whatever has to happen, it has to be produced in the form of a step of instructions which will be understood by the machines that are available. So usually if you take a CNC, it will be in the form of a program. The program will be loaded and then it will be decoded, signals will be generated, and the process will be started as per the requirement. Whatever the output of the process is there, that will be measured and verified whether it has happened as expected. So program of instructions basically contain the work cycle programs. The work cycle programs means what exactly has to happen, step by step information or instructions which have to be executed. So basically it will contain the various process parameters. If you take the example of the CNC, the process parameters will be the speed, feed, depth of cut, and the coordinates for the movement of the tool or how much the tool has to move along the various axes. If you take the example of the heat treatment, it will be about the temperature that has to be maintained inside the furnace, at what rate the temperature has to increase, whether the temperature has to rise by 150 degrees per hour or 50 degrees per hour or 1000 degrees per hour. So accordingly the fuel or power will be consumed if it is electrical one, and more heat is temperature is increased. If you want slow heating, then accordingly the power consumption will be different. The temperature will be increased very slowly. So depending on the process parameters, the program is going to execute. The next one is the decision making in the programmed work cycle. So whatever programs we give, everything cannot happen based on one program. There may be variations that can happen. Sometimes the operator input is needed. So while doing the program, if some decisions have to be taken, where possible, most of the things will be done based on the sensors and other things, but at some times you require the operator feedback, or you require some kind of additional information using which you can decide what exactly to do automatically. So the first one of the decision making is the operator interaction. For example, you are having an automated system wherein the component is put inside the machine manually, and you want to ensure that the operator is safe. So you may be placing a button to ensure that after the component is placed, the operator is going to press a button and the machine is going to start performing the process. If you take the example of the heat treatment case, maybe the operator will load the components, or the machine is going to load the components. The operator will verify whether all the components are loaded according to plan or something. If everything is done, he may press a button, the heat treatment process is going to start. So this is one of the examples of operator interaction. The other one may be different part or product styles processed by the system. So if there is more than one kind of product that is being provided to the machining activity, if we take the example, depending on the raw material that is given, the automatic system has to detect the kind of part and it has to execute the appropriate program. Otherwise, the raw material will be of one component, the program executed will be of another component. Finally, we will be having a rejected workpiece. So now this information can be taken by the or given by the operator, or it can be detected by using some machine vision or camera technology, and we can decide what exactly to do. So both are possible. Next decision will be variations in the starting work unit. So this we can understand by taking the example of the casting. So casting, if you take the example of sand casting, generally it will be having some tolerances. If we take some 10 or 15 components made through casting process, the overall size will not be exactly the same. It will be within some significant amount of tolerances. Suppose we want to make the surface flat. Each of the components will be of different heights. Now if you write a program considering the smallest component, then if you start the machine is started and the largest component is present, then the tool will come down and it will hit the workpiece because you have not considered the additional amount of material. Now if you write the program for the largest component available, and if you have the component present inside the machine is the smallest height component, then the tool will be moving over the workpiece without removing any material, so there will be loss of time. If you take the average of the upper limit and lower limit and you write a program for the mean, then most of the time, or maybe for a significant time, you will be doing it correctly. Then for the other extremes, either the tool is going to be damaged or the tool will be moving without doing any material removal. So in order to avoid all these things, what we can have is we can have some kind of sensor which will detect the height of the component. This information will be given to the automated system. Then the automated system will decide up to what height the tool has to move, and then it has to perform the machining operation. So in this way the decision also can be made in the work cycle. So all these decisions that are being taken in the program of instructions while it is being created, an option has to be created so that the program execution is going to stop. It is going to wait for that particular information either from the operator or either from the sensors and other devices present inside the machines, and then it is going to execute the next instruction based on the information it is getting. So if it is the operator has to give some input, maybe he has to press some kind of buttons or he has to manually input some kind of data. Based on this data, the program will be executed. So these are the different things that have to be present whenever we consider about the program of instructions. It is not one single few lines of code that you are writing and it will be executed. So in actual practice, lot of things have to be considered to ensure that the entire automated system is functioning in the most efficient manner. Next one is the control system. So whatever program of instructions is there, that have to be read, then it have to be decoded into appropriate signals so that the process is happening as per the expectation. If we take the example of the heat treatment furnace, the process will be the controlling of the fuel. If it is a oil fired furnace, then it is the controlling of the fuel supply to the burners. If it is electrical heat treatment furnace, then controlling the power that is going to the heating coils. So the appropriate signals have to be generated so that the power supply is controlled. If it is a machining process, we again have to control the power, or you have to control the signals that are being generated to ensure the speed of the spindle motor or the speed of the drive axis so that the feed rate is as per the requirement, or the movement along the axis to ensure the required depth of cut. So all these signals have to be generated. So whenever we say control system, first it should understand what is the instructions given, and it has to have certain elements which are going to convert the program of instructions into appropriate signals so that the process is happening as per the expectation. So there are basically two types of control systems. One is a open loop control system, other one is a closed loop control system. It is shown in the figure. So if you take the open loop control system, you will be having the input parameter, that is the process parameter that are specified in the program of instructions, that will be read by the controller. A controller will give the signal to the actuator. So actuator may be, in case of the machine tool, it will be the motor. In case of the heat treatment furnace, it is the heating coil. So based on the signal, the actuator is going to perform the particular task in the required fashion so that the process is happening. Then the process, at the end of the process, you will be measuring something to know whether the process has happened as per the expectation, and that will be the output variable. So if you are having the input parameter of say speed is 2000 rpm, the controller will read that instruction, give the signal to the motor. The motor spindle will be shaftly rotating at 2000 rpm. The process will be happening. You can have some kind of tachometer and other device, and you can measure the actual spindle speed. And you are not going to do anything with that particular spindle speed. You are just measuring it and you are leaving it as it is. That will be the open loop control system. Now in the closed loop control system, you are having the input parameters given by the program of instruction. You are having the controller, then you are having the actuator, you are having the process. In the process, you will be making certain measurements, and they using the feedback sensor, that you are measuring the output variable using the feedback sensor, and you are giving it back to the controller. Now what the controller will do in this case? The controller will read or will understand what is the requirement, that is the input parameters, what is achieved, that is the output variable, and it will find out the difference, and it will ensure that the output variable is as per the input requirement. So for example, you are trying to remove material from a very hard workpiece. You want the speed to be 1000 rpm. You have given the input parameter as 1000 rpm. The controller will read it. The motor is trying to rotate at 1000 rpm and the material is being removed. You are having some kind of sensor and you are reading the speed at 800 rpm. Because this material is very hard and you have given very high depth of cut, the tool is having sufficient strength, but the spindle speed is only 800. Now this information is going into the controller. The controller will see that there is a speed difference of 200 rpm. So the controller will give a signal to ensure that more current is going into the actuator. So the actuator will try to increase the speed. So the spindle speed is going to rise from 800 to maybe 900 or 950. Again the feedback is coming, again some corrective action is taken, and finally the process will be as per the requirement. So this can happen in a very small interval of time. Immediately it is going to happen depending on the controllers that are present. So between the open loop and the closed loop system, the controller is more complex in case of the closed loop system because it has to do lot of computations apart from the normal functioning that is required in the open loop system. And the accuracy levels of closed loop systems will be more accurate because you are measuring the output and you are making the required corrections. So closed loop control systems will provide better accuracy. If you want to talk about the motors which are used, in case of if you want a open loop system, a stepper motor is more than sufficient. You give the required number of steps the motor has to move, then those steps will be executed. You will get a known displacement. If you want a closed loop system, you can use a servo motor. Based on the signals given, the motor is going to rotate and then you can stop it wherever you require. You are having the inbuilt sensors that will read how much of movement has taken place. If the movement has completed, the motor will stop. If the movement is not completed, the shaft will continue to move until the required motion is achieved. So cost wise, closed loop system is more costly because the cost of the controller is also higher. Then you require additional component in the form of feedback sensor. So cost will be higher in case of the closed loop system. So these are the three main elements of a automated system. So basic idea is to ensure that the process is happening as per the requirement. This will be a typical example of a control system. So if we see what is the kind of control system, we'll try to understand. You are having a controller which is trying to control the x value, that is x coordinate. The controller is going to give the input to the electrical motor, maybe electrical motor, that is connected to the lead screw. So as the lead screw is rotating, the work table will move in the either of the direction, positive direction or negative direction. So optical encoder is a device which will read how much of the lead screw is rotating, and then that information is given to the controller. So the controller will know, depending on how much rotation has happened over here, it will know what is the distance traveled by the work table. So now when it knows the distance traveled by the work table, you know how much the distance has to be traveled, you know how much distance has traveled. If that requirement is met, the motor will stop. If the requirement is not met, the motor will continue to rotate. So this will be an example of a closed loop system because we are actually measuring the output and then we are giving back it to the controller to ensure that the output is as per the requirement. If this encoder is not there, you say I want the particular x value, the controller will read it, giving a signal to the motor. The motor is going to move by certain rotations. The work table is going to move. There is no question of having any feedback in case of the open loop system.